What's a dead giveaway someone doesn't have a life? Story 1. The lady in my office who monitors how long everyone has been away from their computer. About 8 years ago, I, a software developer, had a team lead who waited for me to finish my bathroom breaks. He scolded me in front of the whole team, open office nonsense. That's the third time you've been in the bathroom for over 20 minutes. It was true, I was having stomach cramps and the runs. You know, the type of feeling where you're just not sure if it's gonna be a fart. Yeah, I had that the entire day. Anyway, sadly for him, I love confrontation, so I confronted him right there. That's illegal, and scolding me in front of the team for what could be a medical issue is another problem. I'll email HR about this and you'll find yourself in the CC. And I went back to work. No, nobody clapped. I did email HR, he got an official warning, and he was switched to a different team. Call center I worked at asked why I left my PC every day at exactly the same time for 5 minutes. They did this in a group chat. I told them it was roughly an hour after coffee and a bran muffin, and they stopped bugging me about it. I had worked the night shift at the bank for 1 year at this point when the manager called me into her office, scolds me for not doing any work every day from 4:55 a.m. to 5:10 a.m., wants me to explain to her why I am taking an extra break every day. I explained to her that I was not taking an extra break and that the PCs across the bank restarted during that time. She's embarrassed but demands to know why I haven't ever mentioned this to her. I told her this has happened every day since the very first day I started. I didn't think to tell her because I thought she already knew, since I was not the first overnight employee they had. She then said that it's procedure to call management whenever there is a system issue, so basically refusing to acknowledge that she shouldn't have brought this up. I ask if she's sure. She confirms. So every morning at 4:55 a.m. I call her. She answers, clearly groggy every time. Each time, I explained I was calling because the PCs were rebooting and calling just like she asked. A few days later, she told me to stop calling and dropped the issue. This is textbook malicious compliance. I love it. Story 2. Starting workplace drama. Worked at a job that I best describe as being the Mean Girls version of middle school, and if you don't like middle school, you don't want to work there. There were 3 people involved, all over 45 years old. The ringleader was a senior employee with nearly 20 years there. She had no life outside of work apparently, which was approaching 5 failed marriages, and was extremely insecure about her lot in life. You were either in, middle, or out of the group. Middle meant that they didn't openly like or dislike you. You were sort of invisible. Out was open warfare. The group would start rumors against other employees, make employees take sides against others, deliberately interfere in any kind of decent working relationship between employees, etc. My work life was made hell because I knew how to program a moderately complex volume calculation into an existing Excel sheet and have it spit out the correct pricing and weight info. My cousin and her 2 friends all work in the same company but in different departments. Friend A and cousin were at a company event together and met friend A's supervisor. Shortly after that, the supervisor started making up stories and started to give friend A and friend B stories my cousin supposedly told her about them. Friend B didn't believe any of it and immediately told cousin, but friend A believed it and started talking mad hell about my cousin. The supervisor raised it to HR in hopes of bringing down my cousin who was in a different department. HR didn't care and dismissed it. It was so dumb. Pure insecurity. She didn't like my cousin after meeting her once and started drama. Man, this is a huge stressor for me now. My small company got acquired and the new management allows work from home, but my office is super old school and against it. Financial services, managed by people that believe the office is too vital to close, even during all of COVID. There's no reason for us to be in 5 days a week, and now it's technically okay not to be, but the first person I saw take advantage of this was almost let go due to office politics, and was constantly getting smack-talked while they weren't there. If I wasn't getting my teeth fixed and needed their good dental plan over my next 2 years, I'd be out, but I feel stuck. Workplace drama is just tiring to me. Story 3. They talk about high school all the time. I didn't have to worry in high school. Sure, I'll bring up the good old days with my high school friends. I had a rather unique experience, 5 years at boarding school, so sometimes people want to hear about it. It is weird how much it comes up in my adult life. I swear I have a life. I honestly don't know why peaked in high school is thrown around as an insult. I proudly say it myself. Yes, my high school years were the best years of my life, and I don't think that's a bad thing. In high school, you're old enough to be allowed to do everything. Well, Well, in my country anyway, yet are still entirely free of responsibilities. I spent those years traveling across the globe, going all out on my hobbies, studying what I was curious about, and bathed in the sureness you only have at that age, that you have the whole world figured out. Those years were like a beautiful fever dream, but it's a very short time frame where that works. Once you turn 18 and leave school, that's it. Now you actually have to take charge of your life, and while that can be satisfying or beautiful in its own ways, that unique mix of endless freedom, self-assuredness, and a hint of naivety will never come back. And I think it's universally harder to enjoy things as thoroughly as you did as a kid or teen, even just from a brain function standpoint. I'm pretty happy with my life right now. I like my partner, my job, and the city that we live in. I have retained friends since my childhood days and made new ones as an adult. We do fun stuff often enough, but I don't have the same energy anymore as I did back then. I have to worry about people dependent on me when I think about where to go for a vacation, and so much more. So yeah, if you ask me about the best time of my life or some significant experiences, the stuff I've always loved doing, high school is gonna come up a lot. I met a guy who was nice and realized he and my partner went to the same high school. They had a nice chat at first, and then it was like 2 hours of Mr. Teacher this and Miss Teacher that, and I'm like, bro, what did you do after? As I gave him an out to chat about something else. He said he did a month of college and then dropped out and then started talking about high school again. Like, bro, you're 24. Life isn't over. Please do something else. Story 4. Worrying about what others do with their life. I think if someone is obsessed with what someone else does, they don't have anything in their own life going on. When I was 16, I worked at a Chinese restaurant. This 25-year-old waitress worked there. She just hated me. I truly don't know why. She started a rumor that I was a massive slut who went to parties and banged a different guy every weekend. I was a shy nerd who looked 13 and had never been on a date before. I was really flattered that she thought that was possible, and I thought it made me sound really cool, so that's what everyone thought of me, I guess. It was really weird how much people cared, like these full-grown adults. You would not believe how much they talked about this. I was, again, a shy nerd, lol. I kept my head down and never gossiped about anyone and followed all the rules. I was a straight-A student who had never gotten detention and was never late and just showed up to hand people their ham-fried rice. It was downright bizarre to me that anyone even noticed I was there, let alone make up a bunch of lore about me. A lot of the 30-year-old dudes there also started inviting me to their house trying to get me drunk. Yep, I was a super late bloomer and again looked 13. No boobs. Didn't even start my period until the year prior. People frequently mistook me for a middle schooler. People are creepy. Oh, and this wasn't like in the 80s or anything. I'm 29. It was more born of jealousy and misplaced competitiveness, but the mother of one of my high school swimming rivals said something similar about me when I was 16. I looked my age, but still, the photo that set her off was taken of me at 15, which I was still rather puppy, fat, / baby-faced. It was me in my school uniform, and it appeared in the newspaper when I did well at a national competition. This apparently made her mad. The story of my promiscuousness went around town and probably further afield. I had one boyfriend, a childhood best friend who lived in a different city and whom I was very fond of. I spent all my time swimming. I had neither the time nor the energy to be promiscuous. I am 40 now, the age this woman must have been when she was spreading these things about me. I cannot imagine saying such things about a teenager. The older I get, the more revolted I am by what went down amongst that swimming parent crowd. It was so messed up. If I were to hear someone my age now talk about a teenager like that, it would make me extremely uncomfortable, and I can't imagine anyone I know doing so. Some people are convinced their kid is going to be the next big whatever. Story 5. One thing I can tell from the variety of answers is that no matter how someone lives their life, can and will be judged for it. Are you career-oriented, or do you work hard to earn a living? You have no life. Of course, the same applies if you don't work enough. Some would argue that starting a family is the ultimate goal in life, but people also don't have enough of a life if they're too passionate about their kids. Do you have a strong interest in something, like a hobby that you devote much of your time to because it's your passion? Say sports, reading, video games, movies, gardening, whatever. No life. Did you peak in high school or college and life has been rough for you, maybe just down to bad luck since? No life. And of course, if you happen to be some poor soul who self-isolates due to struggling with mental illness, you have to be judged as a no-lifer instead of being met with any kind of empathy for your situation. Maybe we just shouldn't worry too much about how others judge us and just live our lives as we want to. I saw some post or TikTok the other day about how a lot of us expect expected life to be like Richard Scarry's Busy Busy Life. We are all different. Some worms, some rabbits, some dogs, and we all have unique but important roles that fill society, and everyone is pretty chill with everyone. But it isn't like that, and nothing else is like we expected. Get a college degree and you'll be fine. Nope. Work hard and you won't be poor. Nope. Don't smoke and live a good lifestyle and you won't get cancer. Wait, what's that? There are microplastics in all the food? Damn. Never mind. Nope. And no matter how we live our life, whether we devote to recycling or wherever we devote to eating healthy, or whether we choose to have kids in a mansion in the hills, or whether we choose to be a monk and live in the mountains of Tibet, we'll be judged by someone, somewhere. It's exhausting. My last boss essentially said to me when her business was starting to crash that I should have had my life figured out already by 20 or 25, and that she tried to give me opportunities during work hours, but I never showed a willingness to want to take those opportunities. She never asked me or offered me those opportunities because she was stuck in her own little world with her assuming she had offered them to me. I worked hard enough that I didn't have to give in to much to my job or ask more, but she didn't like that and tried to turn it on me. She let it slip that the role I had was diminishing into less and less because she didn't trust me to do it well. I've since left to follow my passions and stopped caring what people will judge me for, because you're right, they will judge you for every little thing and spin it in their own narrative if it means they can justify why you're not living as well as them. Story 6. They use followers and likes as a way to feel superior. I know someone has no life when they get in an argument and say, says the person with 0 followers, as an insult. Like, you spend all day on your phone making 10-second videos. Why are you proud of that? I got told this by a bunch of cosplayer women, 21 years and 26-year-olds, who were friends with my boyfriend's friend. They got mighty offended when I mentioned that the only people liking and following are thirsty old men, incels that can't get any, and preteen boys. They didn't have a comeback for that one, and don't really come around if I'm invited to the party anymore. I remember one time last year, a guy tried to hit on me in a bar. I said, "No, sorry, I have a boyfriend," and he replied, "Does your boyfriend have 10K Instagram followers though?" I couldn't help laughing, and I still sometimes wonder if that line ever actually works for him. That must be the most pathetic attempt at a comeback I've ever heard. Story 7. Being obsessed with celebrities. Someone who used to be deep in the trenches of celebrity fandom and was obsessed with a few of them over the span of about 5 years, I can confirm, standing a celeb is a surefire sign of having no life. I worked nightlife in Manhattan clubs when I was younger, which inevitably had me sort of embroiled in a lot of that stuff, especially through my boss. As a result, I have an interest in pop culture that I, as a 46-year-old married man, would not be expected to have. My wife and friends often make fun of me for it, but I genuinely can't stay away. It's genuinely interesting. There is a certain economy behind fame and pop music. It has its own set of rules and boundaries, and push and pull factors that constantly change. Figuring out the exact reasons why a pop star's album flopped, or why a product launched by a B-list actor suddenly blew up, or why some controversies fade and some get lots of attention. For years, my mother's day job was trashing Meghan Markle. She didn't stop until I flat out completely ignored her every time it came up. I would just stop making eye contact and act like she never said anything. Telling her I was tired of hearing about it didn't work, and changing the subject didn't work. So I just went, nope, not engaging with this anymore, and it was only then that she finally did stop. Last time I did it, she was going on about Meghan Markle's Green Goblin dress. Was like, "I'll show you," and sat down to Google it. I just left the room. I can't believe people cry over meeting certain celebrities. Story 8. Reporting on children selling lemonade and water without a permit. I walked by a lemonade stand about 4 months ago. Didn't have cash or I'd have contributed, and about a minute after I walked by it, 4 cop cars peeled up real quick, no lights or sirens. I thought something serious was going down, so I hurried away to get to a safe observation distance, but then I realized that they were going to the lemonade stand. One cop gets out and goes, "Guys, lemonade stand!" And I proceed to see the officers all get out and hang out with the kids, buying all of their lemonade. It was awesome. Guess we have some pretty cool cops where I live. Not once did it occur to me until now that selling lemonade without a permit could have been one of the reasons for that situation. That's sad. Story 9. One of my supervisors was convinced to cheat on his wife by a younger coworker who apparently cheats on his girlfriend regularly. The wife found out and booted him and wrecked about $1,800 of his stuff. No matter, he's got a newfound life as a player and loves it. He's noticed that I'm married to, as he puts it, a baddie, and has low-key outed himself as having stalked my wife's Facebook profile a few times and has told other guys he can't grasp or understand how a goofy-looking guy like me is married to such a baddie. What's more, I'm die-hard loyal to my wife. I will not cheat or go behind my wife's back. Every day, every freaking day, this guy and his cronies give me grief for being a dinosaur because I refuse to cheat on my wife, and when it's him and his cronies, all they can talk about is getting laid and which women we work with they'd screw or have screwed. So yeah, shallow dumb stuff like that. No life at all. This is barely related, but you made me think of a buddy of mine. I texted him last night with some dumb joke and he tried to convince me to come out to the bar with him at midnight on a Wednesday. I'm good. Then he was sending me low quality videos of the dance floor that were gonna appeal to me as I was going to bed. Then he sends me a low quality video of a stripper dancing on the bar and says, I think she's into me, and the whole thing left me feeling pretty depressed actually. He has a girlfriend too. Sounds like a good way to ruin your social life. Story 10. Making drama everywhere they go and then saying, why is my life full of drama? Like, girl, it's not. You just make it that way. Knew a gal who would try to start drama and tell secrets and air out people's laundry to me. I just say stuff like, sounds like that's someone's personal stuff. I wouldn't go around telling people that. Or that doesn't sound like drama, just a normal progression in life. Just shut them down and let them know it's not cool and I refuse to play along. I think the old saying, if everyone you meet is an a-hole, you're the a-hole, applies here. If drama follows you around everywhere you go, then most likely you just start the drama. My mom's side of the family would always have some kind of drama. After 5 years, after cutting them out of my life, I feel so much better. It's just not worth having drama 24/7. It's exhausting for everyone who doesn't want it and terrible for everyone involved. Looking for drama often leads to creating drama. Story 11. Hanging outside of Planned Parenthood locations with anti-abortion or pro-birth signage, jeering and interrupting people just trying to get health care, hanging out anywhere with an anti-abortion sign, really. People who have the time to do that, if they really want to reduce the number of abortions, should do other things like volunteer at the local food pantry or offer to babysit for some teen parents so they can finish high school. I really want to ask these people how many children they have fostered and adopted. Michelle Bachmann was an absolute lunatic, but at least she wasn't a hypocrite with her anti-choice stuff, because she actually did foster and adopt unwanted kids. Screw the rest of these people though. If they actually care about abortion, shouldn't they be encouraging birth control access? They're not nagging men with signs outside of bars at 3 a.m. and handing out condoms. Those nutcases just get off on slut shaming. Story 12. Being a Karen. The neighborhood kids colored on the sidewalk with chalk near your house, take pictures, knock on their door because you know exactly where those little runts live, and chastise them and their parents on graffiti. Then hose off that hideous handiwork they consider art, and then maybe call the cops if you feel you haven't gotten your point across. Did someone drive the wrong way down the parking lot aisle? Wait for them to park and then personally open their door and let them know. The fact that they may have a gun doesn't even cross your mind because you are right and they are wrong, and you will make sure they learn their lesson. You notice a man with a dog wearing a service animal vest on the walking trail, but you're pretty sure there are signs indicating no dogs allowed posted everywhere? Approach both him and his dog aggressively and berate him. Inform him of the law and then call the cops. Then proceeds to stand in his way while he tries to leave so that he can't go anywhere until the cops arrive. Or just be a racist, ageist, nosy, entitled see you next Tuesday who feels they need to directly police other human beings for doing things that they don't agree with, all because it's your American God-given right. No one likes Karens. Story 13. Being way too invested in what other people are doing and judging them for it with no good reason. That's my mom. When she sees a fat woman, she's always judgy, making comments, but not that they can hear it. Always told her she should mind her own business. Next time I catch her doing it, I will tell her she's not any better because she has gotten hella fat as well over the last few years. years. I don't want to be like that to her, but maybe that'll show her to not be so mean about other people's bodies. Oh god, my mother did this as well and then started directing it at me. It's such an unhealthy attitude to have. Every time she did it, I'd cut her off and ask why she was making nasty comments about someone who did nothing to her and who was just walking down the street. Sometimes you just need to cut them off, and it's the only way people learn. She only stopped when I refused to get in the car with her anymore, which is often when she'd start making these comments, and said I was tired of her being a bully. You've got this. Every time we visited our grandparents, they would give us mean comments about us gaining some weight, asking if we could still bend over to tie our shoelaces and stuff like that, then try to make you eat more during dinner. Needless to say, we aren't visiting our grandparents anymore. Grandparents can be brutal sometimes. Story 14. Make multiple accounts on any social media platform and have conversations with yourself. The animal ones that do that drive me nuts, like when the dog replies to mom's post or vice versa. Same with accounts for babies and toddlers. There's no way that's not a mental illness. I went to high school with a girl that, no joke, had a presidential fetish. She made Facebook accounts of several historical presidents. Lincoln, Washington, and Taft are the only three that come to mind right now, but there were more, and would log into those profiles and post on her wall calling herself beautiful and saying things like how her education was progressing nicely and she'd be able to join them in politics soon. She even had an incident where one of the presidents accidentally posted their private conversations that were very, very sexual in nature. My brother, whom I haven't talked to in about 10 years, thinks of himself as a world-class drummer, when he's actually an extremely bad street drummer. Nothing against street performers, he's just not good. He used to create Facebook accounts for his fans and groupies and write posts on his wall with those accounts, saying how good he was, asking where his next gig would be, etc. That's a whole new level of loneliness. Story 15. Coming up to your job on your off day to socialize. Reminds me of this dude I worked with. It was my first job and at a grocery store, and this one dude was close to 40. He was just a store employee. The manager had somehow manipulated him into thinking he was the guy. So this dude basically ran the store, did everything, and lived for the praise of our boss. He lived 30 minutes away from the store, and he always had the early shifts. His only perk, I guess. But also, it was easier for the boss to manipulate him when he was working early. Anyway, he would go home, and after 2 or 3 hours, he would be back just to inspect that the late shifters were doing their part. Get a life, would you? This is so sad to see. I have an older coworker that is the most difficult person I've ever met, by miles. This man is really just terrible to work with, and we've also noticed he's a terrible person to almost everyone. He's got no family and just shows up at work on his days off, when we are trying to get a break from him too. It's sad because he really doesn't get along with anyone, and management hates him even more, but they really can't do anything about it, but just suck it up until he chooses to retire. When he shows up on his day off, people's first reaction is, "Oh my god, why are you here though?" In his head, he's the best thing since sliced bread, and even though I've tried to be his friend and show interest in his hobbies, he eventually just ends up making enemies. He loves to backstab people and prove them wrong, and because most of management is younger than him, he sees them as subhuman almost. It makes me so sad for him because I don't think he's really there at all. For reference, we work in logistics. That's a pretty sad story. I feel bad for him. Story 16. People who are overly confident and cocky online but are absolute wastes of space in person. For the record, I'm talking about the people that talk loads of smack over the internet, not the people who are just shy and have an inner bright personality. There's this one a-hole guy on the Rolex sub who with all sincerity calls people peasants and commoners and curses everyone out. He got doxxed and is from a severely unethical wealthy family. He was posting Rolex photos in the hospital after his wife was giving birth. This is my cousin. Online, he's a personal responsibility bootstrap libertarian who will argue a point to death, cocky that he's right. In reality, he's a 40-something who has never been able to hold down a job. He's been in and out of rehab and lives off of his elderly parents. I have all the respect for addicts and adults that need to live with their parents to make ends meet, but I have none for hypocrites. One of the reasons I deleted Facebook. Story 17. Easy answer. Pretending you do have a life. It's actually hard work watching people unable to live in the moment. I know so many people like this. Every time we do something together, they spend an obnoxious amount of time taking pictures of stuff stuff just to post it on social media later, trying to prove to everyone they're living the life instead of just enjoying the moment. I used to go to some running events with a group of people quite regularly. When they finished, the first thing they did was stage a photo shoot on the finish line while other people were still finishing, spending like 15 minutes trying to get a good angle and poses every single time. Another example is when we went to a beach and one of the moms spent half the time we were there posing for pictures with her kid instead of actually enjoying the beach. Go to any concert or activity and you'll see so many people taking pictures and videos trying to prove to other people they're having fun instead of actually having fun. The next time you feel like you're missing out on life when scrolling social media and seeing all these perfect people living perfect lives, remember it's all a show. You unlocked a memory. When I was a student, I spent a semester in the Arctic and took a course that included a 10-day research cruise that went into the pack ice. When we were on the ice, a polar bear and her cub walked up to the ship. Everyone was on the bow, admiring the visitors in absolute silence, with the exception of the cameras of the amateur photographers, until the piece was suddenly broken by a shrieking yell and one of the girls shouting, insert stereotypical Instagirl accent, "Oh my god, the bears are so close, I can take a selfie with them." Moment ruined. Honestly, just the fact that people need to take a selfie when trying to capture a shot of something else is sad enough. Story 18. Being obsessed with your job and working late on weekdays and on weekends. I'm talking about that person who sends you a work email at 1 a.m. or on a Saturday, and when you see it during your normal working hours, you are in disbelief. Usually, they are also the ones looking down and getting pissed when the ones who have normal working hours and don't love working overtime or want to be reached out for work reasons on weekends. No, lady, nothing is so urgent that you need me to reply back on a Saturday. I actually have a life outside of work and enjoy my free time, unlike you. I sometimes work at weird times because I want to take advantage of when I have the motivation. It's when I get someone replying within a few minutes to an email I send not at 11 p.m. on a Friday, not expecting a reply until Monday, that I'm somewhat hypocritically shocked. Why the hell are you working at this time? Probably the same reason I am, but honestly, unless it's your normal working pattern, don't work at these silly times. I do the same thing. I struggle with sleep a lot, so I figure I might as well do something useful while I'm up. I found that I'm setting the timer in Outlook if you use that. Others probably have similar settings to send during the user's normal business hours helps a lot. It starts getting tricky when you're in leadership roles because coworkers might take it as setting the expectation to work weird or long hours. Story 19. Someone who is on social media all day, and it's obvious. I have a cousin who is my age, 30. She will post all day long on Facebook every day. I honestly feel bad for her. She has 4 kids, all different dads, never finished high school, never had a job, no license, and just no desire to do anything but post pointless stuff on Facebook all day. I encourage everyone to stop checking on social media just because it's in your pocket. At least on iPhone, you can check your weekly usage broken down by app, hours per day, per week, etc. It can really be eye-opening. What I thought was occasionally browsing Instagram Reels or scrolling through Reddit threads was hours out of each day. The crap's been shown to degrade your mental health with enough exposure, and it's alarmingly easy to fall into heavy use, just as with chemical substances. So you should just make a concerted effort to put your phone down when living your full life. Social media can be pretty life-consuming at times. Story 20. Actively making fun of other people's hobbies or making them feel bad about things they like because you have no hobbies. I know so many people, many of them being either women or older folks, who judge people who play video games. I love gaming and always have. I also happen to be a woman, by the way, and it's crazy how many people talk crap about what a useless waste of time gaming is, how much they hate it when their partner games, etc., etc. But then they'll fully admit to binge watching TV all the time, shopping for hours every weekend, or other habits that aren't particularly productive or hugely contributing to society. Not that I judge these hobbies, I just think they're not morally superior to gaming. And I just think, where did the hate boner for gaming come from? Sure, it's not like the absolute prime way to spend your time, but it's a fun way to blow off steam, learn new things, and socialize with friends. So why is it so much worse in some people's view than, say, watching movies? I don't think anyone can ever judge someone for what they like to do. I also think it's worthwhile actually trying out the hobby in question question before you bash it. For some people, it may be a case of making fun of it because they actually want to try it but are holding themselves back. Making fun of something someone else is passionate about is just cruel, plain and simple. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story that you would like to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and don't forget to subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again and see you next time!